Well, hi there. I'm Sara Bradshaw Ray with Big Eye, Oklahoma, and we're hosting the Managers Bootcamp in collaboration with several states across the country, our sister state associations, that is. Joining me today is my friend and colleague for, gosh, more than a couple of decades, right,
That's
Lorinda?
right. That's right.
Lorinda Schrammel is the owner and chief experience officer for growth, training, and consulting, and has been in the talent management business for over 25 years. Now, many of you are probably familiar with the Gallup organization's vast research in the area of employee engagement. Their renowned Q12 data speaks to a number of things that contribute to poor employee engagement, which also leads to high turnover, low productivity, and a host of other challenges in the workplace. But what's astounding to me is that much of that boils down to this. Gallup found that the number one reason for poor employee engagement was bad managers. So, Lorinda, with all the things that play into this employee engagement conversation, why do you think bad managers ranks at the top of the list?
Well, I think the primary reason is because there's a whole lot of really bad managers out there. And so I think that just ups the chances of them running people off. But I mean, I think they're bad managers a lot of times because they just had no training and they really are just trying to wing it based on what they've seen, what they think. A lot of times people get promoted just because they're really good at their jobs as individual contributors. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing, but we need to equip them when we move them into a supervisory or management role. But that usually doesn't happen. Or then maybe someone says, go read this book or go watch this video. And that's about the extent of any training they might have. And so, and a lot of us, we base how we supervise on either good supervisors we've had or bad supervisors we've had. And how do you take that in and then do something different if it's a bad manager that you're used to? How do you make that change, and how do you know what to do differently? I just think people are not equipped. And sometimes people get moved into these supervisory roles because they've been there the longest. So we'll just move them on up, and whether they want to or not. And then sometimes it's because maybe they have a lot of industry knowledge. And I don't want to negate the value of that. But when it comes to leading others, we also need to understand how to deal with employees, how to understand retention and engagement, what works and what doesn't work. And so I think all of that together kind of complicates the supervisory and management roles if we don't equip our supervisors when we move them up.
Absolutely. So tell us more about the Managers Boot Camp and how this can help someone, perhaps who has
Mhm.
been promoted into leadership but hasn't had the proper training and support for the responsibility to actually lead people.
Yeah, this particular course, what I like most about it is it doesn't matter if you're brand new to supervising and managing, you're young, you're not so young. Maybe you've been a supervisor or a manager before, maybe for a long time even. This particular course will be great for new supervisors because they'll get to learn some of those things that they would not have learned otherwise, that they would be winging it through. But also, if you've been a seasoned manager or supervisor, you never had the training, maybe you might learn some new ways of handling some of these things that you've just been trying to figure it out, day by day. So we can just really supplement what you already know if you've been doing this a while. So that's what I like about this boot camp is it really applies to lots of different, backgrounds, experiences in the management supervisory role. And I also like we all come together with different backgrounds, right? And so we're going to have people in there that are brand new to supervising. We're going to have people that are seasoned. And then we get to talk through what's worked, what doesn't work. And so we'll help some of those newer supervisors learn from those that are more seasoned. We get to learn from each other. I'm just there to facilitate the conversation and lead the learning. But really, a lot of the gold comes from what everyone brings to the table during our discussion times.
Oh, for sure. I know the cohort that I got to sit in on was definitely a blend of ages and stages.
Yes.
And I loved how you brought in the different perspectives into the group, because it is, at times, it's very much kind of a co-mentoring type
Yes,
type environment. So,
exactly.
so in addition to access to you and your depth and breadth in the talent management world, tell us a little bit more about the resources that come with this cohort experience.
Sure, absolutely. So each participant will receive a great big workbook. It has 264 pages in it. In that workbook, it has 6 chapters, and then I will also additionally supplement with an additional unit from outside of this content. So there's actually going to be a little bit more than those 264 original pages that will supplement just for one of the sessions. And so you'll get that. That workbook has so much research in it. 3-page bibliography, if that tells you how much research is in this particular workbook. But it also has lots of work pages. We're going to get to do some homework together. And so there's going to be some good, valuable reading on a lot of different subjects like communication and feedback and coaching and motivation and conflict. We all have to deal with that, and teamwork, things along those lines. And so I think just it's a very well put together course with lots of things that supervisors and managers have to deal with. So they'll get that workbook. It'll be a good resource. But as mentioned, they're going to get to be in this course with different people. Maybe some they know, maybe some they don't. And so they'll get to build some real networks from this. And it's always good to have some partner supervisors and managers that you can call and go, this is happening. What have you done? Have you ever seen this before? And so it really can help, broaden their network so that they get to know people, but also then they kind of have some people they can reach out to when the going gets tough. We all are going to go through this together. We're all supervisors together. And it's always good to have some good friends that are going through the course with you. And then I'm going to be there too. As mentioned, I've had a few years under my belt doing this type of training. I've done this particular course or semblances of this course for over 20 years. And so we've crafted it, we've shaped it, and kind of made it the course it is today, just based on our experience over the last 20 years. And so I think all of that together, I think it will be really beneficial to anyone that's interested in, honing their supervisory and management skills.
That's awesome. And in a virtual environment. So how does that look? I got to say, I experienced the physical classroom, but I know how this can transcend into a virtual environment. So talk a little bit about that, maybe even the size of the cohort that we're looking for, and how the logistics kind of look and feel.
Sure. Well, I'll be honest. I love the, in-person environment. I love that. We get some really rich discussion that way, but I've done this lots of times virtually too. And there's some wonderful things about doing it virtually. One of the things, I like is when we do virtual, we kind of keep that class size limited. And so we want to do that because it really helps people engage. When you're on a virtual, training session and there's 100 people, that's really hard to manage. Even if you use breakout rooms, which I like to do, which is an added benefit for doing a virtual training. When you have a lot of people, that would be a lot of breakout rooms too. So we're trying to keep this to a manageable size. I think we've capped it at 30, which means if you're interested, you got to sign up quick because those slots are going to go. But we did that with intention, not to try to limit who can or cannot attend, but really because we want to just enrich the conversation that we have and make it where everyone gets a chance to share and ask questions. And so keeping it relatively small helps us do that, helps me as a facilitator manage that and, figure out how can we do breakout rooms, or do we need to do breakout rooms? And then there is homework. And so it helps me a little bit when we don't have a bajillion people in there. But we do the homework outside. And so when you come in to the course, you're ready for the conversation that day. You've already read the chapter. You've already figured out how is this going to apply to me. And so some of that homework, people say, how much homework? Well, the reading 1 week may be an hour. And plus, there may be a worksheet that you have to complete along with that reading. And so, but it's doable. You just have to kind of commit the time, and it doesn't have to be an hour at a time. Put 15 minutes in a few days a week and you'll have that taken care of. But it really sets you up for a discussion when we meet together. Here's a bonus if we do this virtually. If someone has to miss, then they can see the recording. They can still watch the recording, get the content. They can still get the CEUs that are issued when people attend. And so they'll get the credit so they can graduate at the end of the course. So that's a bonus for doing it virtually. It's easy to make that up. You just have to commit the time to do that after you've missed the class, but that's pretty doable. And that's one thing I do really like about virtual, because if you miss it and you're in a live class, you're kind of out of luck until that class is offered again. This way they can watch it in real time and really stay along so they're ready for the next course, because each class kind of builds upon each other.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so hopefully we're going to end up with the best of both worlds here.
Yes.
Well, I know you've been teaching this content for a long time, so I
Yeah.
know that you probably could talk another 20 minutes on my last question for you. But what are some of the most significant takeaways that you have seen from previous Manager Bootcamp participants?
Sure. So one thing I hear over and over again is the chapter on conflict really resonates with a lot of people. Unfortunately, conflict is a real thing,
Yeah.
and people just don't really know what to do with it. A lot of us try to avoid it, try to avoid having those hard conversations. And I think that particular class is really resonates with a lot of the participants. And I think it sets them up to have those hard conversations, to understand why people are behaving the way they are when they are in conflict. And so that one, I hear a lot of feedback on about that particular content. Another thing is something I don't think we really think about when it comes to supervising and managing is we really have to do it with intention. We can't just put it on autopilot and think, oh, I'll just, go through the motions. We can't really do that. We really have to think about what we're doing, what's going to be the result of the things that we're doing. How am I investing in my employees? It is about employee engagement and retention. And I mean, it's just so much easier to keep the employees we have, but how do we do that? How do we learn to understand them? And so I think those are some takeaways. I do want to say though, something we don't often think about as managers is that people are always watching us. And what are we modeling for them? If I'm modeling that I don't know how to handle conflict, how are they going to feel as employees if a conflict does arise? That they're going to be, upstream without an oar. And so we don't want to leave them with this feeling that my manager is ill prepared to lead our team. And so I think if we can just kind of do it with intention, set ourselves up for success. Those are some things that people have taken away, that they feel more prepared to be managers and supervisors. They got some real resources and tools to use. They have a little bit more understanding about their role as managers. And so I think those help people just have that confidence to manage and lead, when before it was daily winging it. And we know some of those consequences can be pretty bad.
Sure, not to mention just a real feeder for burnout. The bottom line is if we're having to do something that we're ill prepared or equipped to do, we can do it for a little while, but to do it all day, every day for who knows how long is, when we're either pushed or pulled out of our
Yes,
comfort zone, that's when we're going to react emotionally. That's when all those turnover stats and stuff begin to affect us too.
absolutely. Absolutely. I could
So
not agree more.
as
Yes.
as leaders.
Yes.
So, well, thank you. Need to know. And Lorinda said it first. Registration, we're hoping, is going to just blow out and max out quickly. It's open now at bigiok.com/managers bootcamp. So grab your spot while they're available, or maybe you're a leader. Maybe you're looking into your organization at the people that you need to be investing in, the people who are the frontline daily managers who are impacting your staff, your team all day, every day. So, is there an emerging leader perhaps that you want to encourage as you set the stage for their future role in your organization? Those are all the kind of people who need to be taking advantage of this opportunity. So thanks, Lorinda. Thanks for taking the time to help us get our head around what the experience at Managers Bootcamp is going to be alike. And again, we need to make it a priority to get out there, register for those seats, and be a part of truly this life-changing event for your organization, for your staff, or maybe even for yourself. So thanks again. Have a
Thank you
great
for
rest of
having
your
me.
day.
Yeah, you too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.